Nearly 2 years ago, I set up my Riverscape aquarium, and although I absolutely love that tank, it's time for something new. So in this video, I'll be moving all of these fish over to a new Sunken Forest themed aquarium. Okay, so I've had this tank for about 2 years now, and in that time it has been a ropefish tank, another ropefish tank, a firebelly toad tank, and most recently a plan holding tank. Now, what do all these tanks have in common? They're temporary. They are pretty ugly setups that are just meant to hold a fish or the frogs for a little while until I could make something better. And that's a shame because this is a beautiful tank. It is 90 centimeters long, 40 centimeters deep and 40 centimeters tall, which means that this thing can hold roughly 144 liters of water, which I don't know what that is in gallons, but I guess that will be like somewhere between 30 and 35 gallons, I guess. So yeah, it's a nice big tank. You can do a lot of beautiful things with it. So lately I've been thinking a lot about what my ultimate goal is with this animal room. What do I want the room to look like? What do I want to keep in the room? What do I want to inspire with these videos? A high priority for me is getting all the animals that I already own into a really good setup that works really well for them. For me, is low maintenance, looks good, like the whole list, right? Something really cool. And lately I've been feeling that all of these tanks are lacking. So the plan is to redo this stand. I want to get rid of this. I want to get rid of all of these setups up here. Most of them, I'm not really enjoying them. So I thought, let's combine all of these together into one setup. But more about that later. And then I get rid of this shelf. And then I add a little bit of height down here. And then we move this up a little bit. And then instead of having the lights hidden in a shelf above the tank, I'm gonna make two arms over the tank and have the lights hang like above it. And then we can have some plants bursting out of the setup, something like that. But what we're gonna do today is we're gonna take all of these fish, all of these plants, and move them over to this new tank. Now you can see I already got some stuff. That was way more noise than I expected. Some stuff in here. I got these cork rounds and I got some cork branches and stuff. And I think we can make a really cool sunken forest kind of look in this setup. So that's what we're gonna try to create today. And the first step in achieving that look is drilling some holes in the cork branches. Now, I really like using cork branches. They always look really good. And since they're almost always hollow, they also double as a height for a lot of animals. So I think they're really great in a variety of different setups. But the only downside is that it is cork and it really likes to float, which is why I'm drilling holes. This will give me an anchoring point from where I can attach zip ties to attach these pieces of cork to pieces of slate, which will help weigh them down. And with a couple of these contraptions ready and in the tank, I can start designing the layout of the tank. I think something like this will work really well. So now that we have a good layout for the wood, it is time to start thinking about the nutrient layer. Now, what I want to use for this project is this really big bag. I got it on sale the other day. And well, it's a lot, it's way more than we need. But this is the Colombo Mano Base Red. You can see the sticker right there. Now, I don't really know why it was on sale, but I'm happy it was. Anyway, I'm filling up a couple of these substrate bags with some of the aqua soil. Unfortunately, the aqua soil is a bit too fine for these mesh bags, and it's kind of falling through the mesh. But most of it stays in, so I'm just gonna use it as is. Next, I decided to cap everything with a layer of gravel. Now, I thought I had a lot more than I actually did, so it is a bit of a thin layer of gravel. I would have liked a lot more gravel in there, but this is what I got to work with, and it's only a temporary tank, so it's not too bad. We can work with it as is. Now, a quick little tip to create more depth in the setup is to slope it up towards the back. I try to do it as best as I can in here. Again, if you have more gravel to work with or sand or other substrate, it is much easier to make a dramatic slope towards the back. Anyway, with the substrate in place, it's now time to add the plants. And this was a bit of a bittersweet moment, since this means I need to start emptying out the old river tank. Now I'm not really sure if what I'm doing here is the best way to go about it, but I decided to just pick out a couple of plants, then move them over to the new tank, plant them where I think they will look nice, then go back to the river tank, pick a few more plants and then go back and forth like so. My reasoning behind doing it this way is that it slowly empties the old river tank while the fish are still in there, causing them hopefully the least amount of stress. Now, as far as my decision making on where to place which plant, there isn't a whole lot, but I just tried to arrange them from smallest at the front and biggest at the back. But since this is only a temporary tank meant to be up for a month or two, I'm not really too worried about making the perfect layout, just something that kinda looks nice. And once I was happy with the placement of these plants, I started to add water to the tank. Now, I was planning on filling the tank up all the way, but halfway through I actually really liked the shallow look of the tank, so I decided to just stop there. Okay, so a little time skip. I now added the filter of the old river tank over here, and it's a bit ugly how I attached it. The tubes run over this side, you see them all over there. Doesn't matter, it will probably work. Now this does mean that the filter is splashing water everywhere, so I had to come up with something to prevent water from constantly splashing. I decided to wrap a little bit of filter sponge around the outlet, clamp it down, and now the sponge is getting wet. This does mean there is very little flow in the tank, but I think it will be fine. And with that addressed, it's now time for the other somewhat bittersweet moment, which is catching the fish from the river tank. Now these tanks are both pretty much the same temperature, so I can just scoop them out, dump them in the other, so no acclimation is really needed. Now most of the fish from the river tank will go straight to the sunken forest tank, but not all of them. I decided to take the rainbow fish and the ancestors that I have in there and move them to my ropefish tank. Now for the rainbow fish, the ropefish tank will be their retirement home. They're pretty old as far as rainbow fish go, and they get to live out their old days in that tank. And for the ancestress, it was always my plan to eventually move it to the ropefish tank. When I bought it about a year ago, it was still very small and I didn't really trust the ropefish with the ancestress. And now I think it's big enough that it'll be fine in the ropefish tank, so that's why those three fish will go to the ropefish tank. All of the others from the river tank will go straight to the sunken forest tank. And with that, I say it's time to look at the new tank. Now I gotta say, this tank turned out way prettier than I had expected when I started it, and it really makes me think that I maybe should do something similar but better in the new shallow tank. But let me know what you guys would do with this tank, and if you're hungry for more content, I recommend you watch this video next. I'll see ya there.